The objective of the Fabric Bucket Fed project was to create a textile product that would transport at least 1 gallon of water while maintaining the quality of the water. There were several design constraints for this product and project. The product must be portable when full of water and must be able to hang from a hook for testing. Secondly, the product must hold at least 1 gallon of water without leakage for 1 minute. Third, it must compress to fit within a container with dimensions of 6 inches by 6 inches by 6 inches. Fourth, it must be less than 30 inches in height when full of water. Fifth, it must noticeably contain at least 50% of a fibrous material in the water containment area of the bucket. And lastly, the project must not include commercial or pre-made items. At our first meeting, we brainstormed several ideas and developed a few possibilities of what we wanted our project to look like. We discussed using bioplastic, laminates, beeswax, and spray-on coatings. After evaluating the pros and cons for each option, we agreed that using spray-on coating under the brand name FlexSeal would be the simplest, quickest, and most effective solution to the problem. After defining the project restraints, we continued our engineering design process by conducting research. The most important sources from the research component of our FED project would include the FlexSeal material safety data sheet and the water absorption study on polyester composites. These two sources highlighted the attributes of the two most important inputs of our product, the fabric and the sealant. Our research led us to select these two items with confidence that their contribution from combination would create a successful waterproof project.
Through the create portion of the engineering design process, we faced several design challenges. Most design challenges that we discovered were within the physical construction of the bucket. Selecting the proper sewing stitch and tension of the stitch was the first difficulty. Originally, our first prototype utilized a traditional stitch. However, it was visible to the group that this stitch was not strong enough, as the fabric could easily be stretched apart, revealing large holes that water could pass through. For our second prototype, we changed from this traditional stitch to a very tight zigzag stitch. Unfortunately, the sewing machine that we used struggled to continue to perform the tight zigzag stitch, so we were forced to transition to a medium zigzag stitch. Thankfully, this stitch satisfactorily provided the structure we required to form secure seams. To further ensure that our seams were watertight, the group also sprayed the sealant over each seam and all the way to the edge of the material. This ensured that no water could travel through any exposed part of the polyester material, thus preventing it from saturating the rest of the bag. A second design challenge was the hanging mechanism of the bucket. In our prototypes, the hanging mechanism proved to be the weakest point of the product. Therefore, when constructing the final project, the hanging mechanism was constructed with a full seam across the top of the bag in order to spread the weight of the full bucket and reduce the stress on each individual stitch. On Fed Day, our fabric bucket placed 6th overall in the afternoon session. 6 of the 12 buckets tested in the afternoon session passed through testing without being disqualified. However, only 2 of the fabric buckets in the morning session passed through testing without being disqualified. Altogether, only 8 of the approximately 24 fabric buckets were not disqualified. So although we did not place in the top 3 fabric buckets that we technically competed against, we were happy with the knowledge that our bucket was in the minority of groups who did successfully complete the task we were given.
If we were given the opportunity to do our FED project all over again, there are several things that we would change. First, one of the most difficult parts of testing at FED was the fact that opening our fabric bucket was rather small, which made it difficult to pour water into our bucket without spilling it down the side. We were under the impression that a funnel would be provided for testing. However, this wasn't the case. If we could create our fabric bucket, we would likely select a design that incorporated a wider opening at the top. This would allow us to add water to the bucket at a faster pace and therefore allow our bucket to hold more water before it leaked. Second, we would choose to coat our entire bucket in a second coat of FlexSeal, our commercial sealant. Our final product only had a single coat of FlexSeal on the body of the fabric and 3 coats of FlexSeal on the seams of the bag. We found that after the initial 60 seconds of testing, the water permeates FlexSeal coating and begins to saturate the fabric of the bag. Once this occurs, it is only a matter of time before the first drop of water falls from the bottom of the bag. We feel that an additional coating of FlexSeal would prevent the water from soaking the fabric and therefore prevent the bag from leaking. Third, our group chose to pursue score multipliers that were dependent on the actions of the groups we were competing against, like best poster or best implementation of the engineering design process. These score multipliers were delegated by the judges, and we did not end up earning any of these score multipliers, unfortunately, which negatively impacted our score. Given the opportunity to redo our project, we would attempt to pursue several score multipliers that we would have been assured to secure, like being portable as a backpack.
The most important advice we can give to next year's freshmen is to start building your prototype early. Also, don't forget about deadlines. It's easy to get caught up in other schoolwork, but definitely prioritize your project as well. We ran into several problems with our design, which were not visible until we tested our prototype. Thankfully, we started testing early enough that we were able to adapt and fix the most important failures of Bucket's initial design, but if we had not tested so early, we would not have been able to fix those problems before Fed Day. While watching other Fabric Bucket groups test on Fed Day, it was very apparent which groups had not adequately tested their bucket. Some buckets could not hold even a fraction of the required gallon of water without excessive leaks. We would also like to tell next year's freshman engineers that although Fed may seem like a lot of work at the beginning, it is definitely manageable, and most importantly, it all feels worth it once you see your own project tested on Fed Day. Don't forget to have fun.